Hey everybody, it's Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick. You're listening to your Morning Coffee, the podcast. Weekly music news for the new music business by two longtime Cheap Trick fans, Jay Gilbert, Mike Etchard. We were Jay's first concert, 8/13/77, right Jay? Portland, Oregon? I don't know. Have a nice day.
From Kristen Robinson at Billboard, burner pages and volume posting, inside music's hottest new TikTok marketing strategy.
And from Daniel Tenser at Music Business Worldwide, Stability AI study says AI is creating potentially new music genres as artists take control.
And from Daniel Tenser at Music Business Worldwide, the U.S.'s click-to-cancel rule could soon be law. What would that mean for streaming services? Well, all of this plus music's top money makers, YouTube Music turns 10 years old, and partners with bands in town, and lots of other stuff Jay and I are going to talk about. So we're glad you're here. We're going to start the show right about now.
Stand by for transmission.
This is London calling.
Wake up! The revolution is at hand!
Your morning coffee is on the air. On the air. On the air. On the air. On the air.
Standing by.
Your morning coffee, the weekly music news for the new music business. It's the highly curated, agitated, advocated, moderated, and liberated digital music information that you need to know. We are your digital music authority. And now from our studios in Hollywood, California, here's your hosts, Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart.
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Jay. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, that was a cool intro. That was Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick. And yes, he's not kidding. They were my first concert. They have a new album coming out. It's called All Washed Up, which is such a great album title. And on the cover is 4 washing machines, one that represents each member. You can tell by looking at it. And that marks the first Cheap Trick studio album since 2021's In Another World. And that audio you were just listening to is the first single, again, 12 Gates.
Great stuff. Love Cheap Trick. They've got nearly 24 U.S. dates booked through the end of the year, plus a pair of farewell shows in Japan. That includes a stop at Tokyo's Budokan Hall, where they recorded their legendary live album, Cheap Trick at Budokan.
Yeah.
And wasn't that originally meant for Japanese only, for Japan only?
That's right. It became such a hot-selling import, and they had to bring it over. So there was a really cool thing this week, this new playlist I wanted to share with you. Our friend Michael Kaufman has teamed up with his team over at the Clios. They teamed up with The Elements Music on a really cool playlist called the Good Noise playlist. And let's listen to Michael explain.
How much do things suck right now? Hi, I'm Michael Kaufman, the executive director of Clio Music. The world is really loud right now, and I know for me, one thing that helps cut through the clutter is a really great song. Clio Music and the Elements Music are working together to form a collaborative playlist for and by the creative community. We're going to be each week introducing a song as well as a creative person from the industry that wanted to share that song. It's not based on algorithms, it's really based on each of our personal experience of songs that make us happy, that bring us joy. I selected a song by a Canadian singer-songwriter named Bruce Cockburn. He has a song called Wondering Where the Lions Are.
Me and I'm wondering where the lions are. I'm wondering where the lions are. I'm wondering where the lions are.
To me, it's a song that gives me sunshine. It's about hope in the morning. To me, a very bright, joyful song. So what song brings you joy and happiness? We'd love to hear from you. Share it in the comments. Let us know, and perhaps we'll highlight you at some point in the weeks to come. This is the Good Noise playlist.
That is super cool. Yeah, be sure to check out the Clio's socials each week to see who's been featured and what songs they've chosen. Excuse me, I've got a hiccup. From Buzz to Bond, Ariel Hyatt has a new book out. It's called From Buzz to Bond. It emphasizes the importance of building meaningful, lasting relationships with fans through intentional marketing practices.
Yeah, you and I met up with her at that Ohio Music Summit.
We did.
Yeah,
got to hang out.
In this book, she critiques marketing tactics that prioritize vanity metrics over genuine engagement and really introduces the concept of what she calls bond marketing. And that focuses on authenticity, community, and sustained interaction. I read the book. I thought it was very well done, and I recommend it for any developing or middle-class artist. And I had a chance to talk to Ariel this week about the book. Let's listen in. Ariel, it's so good to see you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Such a pleasure. You sent me your book, From Buzz to Bond, and it really outlines sort of a strategic framework for musicians, a lot for indie musicians in particular, to transition from chasing fleeting popularity, which is buzz, to cultivating a more dedicated fan base that's engaged. That's the Bond side. And there were so many great actionable takeaways. I could see an artist taking this book and going through and dog-earing it and putting in Post-it notes. I just want to talk about a couple of my favorites and get your thoughts on it. One is initiate meaningful touch points. Talk about that a little bit.
So this is the thing that we see when we're addicted to buzz, like grabbing Spotify plays or going for additional likes on social. What begins to fade from the picture is meaningful touch points. And meaningful touch points means that you actually are in conversation, in contact, you know the person's name, you likely know a little bit more about why they're interested in you. And this is something that these giant platforms deny us. You know, Spotify will never tell you who exactly is listening. You might know how old they are and what country they're in, but a meaningful touch point can only happen when you actually know the person's name and even more about why they're engaging with you in the first place.
You talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that is the way that you put it, I think, is utilizing repeatable strategies. But it's talking about working consistently to build engagement. And I think you and I would agree you'd rather have 1,000 engaged followers than 1 million people who don't care.
100%. And what's funny about the concept of a repeatable strategy is musicians are innately wonderful at creating repeatable strategies when they're performing. You know, if you think about like, okay, the crowd goes crazy when I do this, or the crowd responds when I make a joke, or the crowd loves it when I threw a special drum fill in there or guitar solo there. You know, we all know those legacy artists that kind of have the same banter. If you go see them a couple times a night, you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is not off the cuff. This is a repeatable strategy. And yet when it comes to our marketing, we like forget that these are formulas that actually work on humanity, and we throw them out the window. And if it's all random, it's never going to work.
Talk about shifting your mindset. That was another part of the book that I found myself sort of nodding as I was reading through that.
It's funny, you mentioned at the top that this book is about strategies and systems, which it is, but really this is a mindset book. Even if you do like nothing in the 10-step funnel, I want artists to walk away going, oh, I need to have a mindset shift here. And that mindset shift is you've got to get unaddicted to dopamine, which is what all of these platforms have sort of made all of us, unfortunately, become a little bit too keen on. And you have to get into things that might not in the short term feel as delicious as a scroll dopamine hit, but will in the long term yield something much more valuable. So when I talk about mindset, I mean stop looking at the number of streams you have on your Spotify and start looking at how many meaningful conversations did I have this week. And it's okay if you only had 2, because 2 could be 100 new fans in a year, and 100 real fans or 100 real people that know who you are in a crowdfunding campaign 5 years down the line could make all the difference.
Okay, the book is From Buzz to Bond. It's from my friend Ariel Hyatt. Ariel, where can our listeners learn more about you and your work? And also, where can they get the book?
I am everywhere at Cyber PR, and the agency that I run is Cyber PR Music. On LinkedIn, I'm Ariel Hyatt, and you can get the book at those websites or at Amazon.
Always a pleasure to chat with you. Let's do this again.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ariel.
Great stuff. Good to hear from her. Mickey Guyton, Behind the Set List. Yes, country singer Mickey Guyton joined Billboard's Behind the Set List podcast from China, where she was host and contestant on the TV show The Singer. And of course, Behind the Set List podcast is done by you, Jay Gilbert.
It's
and
done
your
by
good friend Glenn Peepers.
Yeah, by Glenn and I, and we love doing that every week. And this conversation was really interesting because, as you mentioned, she was from China. We had the conversation. She ended up coming in second place in the finale on August 8th. She said, I'm the first country artist that they've had on the show, and it's just been so much fun. It's really been a beautiful experience. It's interesting that artists like Mickey are doing other things, trying to break from other markets and doing some of these talent shows. And she was not only a contestant, but she was also kind of co-hosting it. And there's a lot of people in China. So however you break, there's no wrong answer there. But check out the Behind the Set List with Mickey Guyton. It's super interesting.
Very, very much so. Very much so. A few interesting items that grabbed our attention this week. An article in the New York Times, Morgan Wallen will not submit latest album for Grammy's consideration. The country singer became the latest major artist to abandon the awards, declining to enter his chart-topping 4th album, I'm the Problem, for the 2026 ceremony.
Yeah, I thought this was super interesting. Wallen, he didn't explain his decision to step away from the awards, by the way. He's joined a bunch of, these major artists who have abandoned the Grammys. Drake, The Weeknd, Frank Ocean, Zach Bryan, all of them have opted not to submit their music for Grammys consideration. And, they cite reasons including concerns over the nomination process, the makeup of the voting body, and restrictions about genre-based categories.
Interesting, yeah. Another piece from Billboard, YouTube Music turns 10 years old. New features, fandom initiatives, and why companions are the future of streaming. As YouTube Music turns 10, the company is rolling out a suite of new features surrounding community, playlisting, and fandom that it hopes will help differentiate it as it continues to grow through the next 10 years of the streaming era.
Right. They interviewed YouTube's head of music, and that's TJ Fowler. And he said that the competitive space has matured quite a bit. And he said, I think it's given us the resolve to lean into what makes YouTube uniquely YouTube, the community, the fandom, the catalog. He went on to say that when you start a fandom journey with a hook and a 15-second video, and then we take you to buying tickets and merch, it's a big win for us.
The first of those initiatives is around community, specifically commenting. Users have always been able to comment on individual videos, but now there will be an additional ability to comment specifically on albums and playlists, broadening the connective tissue for fans on the platform. In terms of playlists, the company is now rolling out what it calls taste match playlists, where multiple users can connect on a single playlist that will pull from the musical tastes of each to create a shared playlist that is automatically updated daily.
Yeah, that's super cool. And another thing that was announced this week, this new exclusive partnership with Bands in Town, which is one of our sponsors, and we're big fans. That'll expand concert notifications and ticket sales to users in 35 countries. It'll include, small venues, bigger arenas, stadiums, and festivals, with a focus on notifications ahead of time so fans are aware when their favorite artists are coming to town. That notification strategy will expand to new merch drops, new album and single releases, and other events. Super cool.
Yeah, YouTube Music is also leaning into one of the industry's favorite buzzwords over the past 18 months. Super fans from both the fandom side and the artist side. The service is rolling out new badges for fans on platform for those who are among the first listeners or viewers for a song or album, for top listeners per artist, and for particular view count milestones, 10,000 or 100,000 or 1 million or more. And that's for fans to boast about on their own pages and for artists to encourage their early fans to achieve.
Yeah, congratulations to our friends over at YouTube and Bands in Town. Super cool announcement this week there, and that was really great. There were a couple of stories that our friend Glenn Peoples wrote for Billboard. The first one, the headline was Music's Top Moneymakers, who are the highest paid executives in the music industry. The second one I found even more interesting, and that was why music CEO pay structure is actually similar, even if they're paid different amounts. And that's the one I want to focus on, because you can find both of these stories in Billboard, and you can see what people, executives make in the music industry, and they break it out, by the different buckets. And that's interesting. I don't fault any executive for making a ton of money. I mean, they bring value and they drive success for these companies, and I believe that they should get paid what the market will bear. The question asked is, what do music companies in different industries with revenue ranging from almost $4 billion to $23 billion have in common? Well, their CEOs are paid comparably.
Right. So in 2024, the compensation given to most music company CEOs was nearly even when taking into account the amount of their company's earnings. As a percentage of the company's adjusted earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, that of course is EBITDA, or similar measure of profitability.
Yeah, I talked to Glenn about this. I thought this was super interesting. When you look at the compensation based on what the companies earn, companies end up paying similarly and handsomely because compensation committees don't want to underpay a CEO. As Spotify's annual report put it, executive compensation must be adequate to attract, engage, and retain the best executives to work for us.
Right. So effectively, whatever eBay and Electronic Arts, both are in Spotify's peer group, by the way, are paying its executives, Spotify will pay comparably. And what Spotify pays will influence what Warner Music Group pays. And what Warner Music Group pays will influence what Live Nation pays, and so on and so on and so on. You can read both articles in their entirety by Glenn Peoples with Billboard Pro.
Yeah.
Great piece.
Yeah,
great
really
piece.
Great. There were a couple of quick pieces this week about ASCAP and BMI securing higher rates. The first one was from Shannon Williams over at Music Business Worldwide, and the headline was ASCAP secures higher rates in settlement with U.S. radio broadcasters. And then Daniel Tenser from Music Business Worldwide wrote a piece about BMI, that they secure largest rate increase ever for radio royalties in the United States. So the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, that's ASCAP, they've reached a settlement, this agreement with Radio Music Licensing Committee, that's the RMLC for those keeping score, and that's going to see higher royalty rates paid by almost 10,000 commercial terrestrial radio stations in the U.S.
Yes, and a big yay. The deal covers the public performance of more than 20 million musical works in ASCAP's repertory across AM and FM radio stations nationwide. The announcement comes on the same day that rival performing rights organization BMI, which of course stands for Broadcast Music Inc., revealed it has secured what it called its largest rate increase ever for radio royalties in the United States following its own settlement with the RMLC. By the way, BMI represents over 22 million works of more than 1.4 million songwriters.
Wow. According to documents filed with the U.S. District Court in Southern District of New York, broadcasters will pay a little over 2% of gross revenue and royalties for 2022 and 2023, rising gradually to 2.2% for 2026 through 2029. The deal will be applied retroactively to January 1st, 2022.
Yes, a big yay.
Yay.
Good. Yeah. A great story over at Edison Research. Hip-hop and R&B fans spend the most daily time with music. So their share of ear from Edison Research is the only audio measurement that captures daily listening across platforms, genres, devices, locations, and content types.
Yeah, we often report on the share of ear report from Edison Research. Check it out in your morning coffee, by the way. Not only are subscribers able to understand where, when, how, and for what amount of time Americans, 13 years older or older, how they interact with audio on a typical day, but they're also able to understand how engagement differs across many audience segments. Now, for the first time, they are releasing how time spent with music varies by genre. And it tells us a lot. I'm just going to read off, the top 10 here really quickly. These are ranked 1 to 10 daily minutes spent listening to music, and these are the genres. Number 1, hip hop, and that's with R&B. Number 2, alternative rock. Number 3, country. Number 4, top 40. Number 5, classic rock. Number 6, soft rock. Number 7, classical music. Number 8, oldies. And then, I'm sorry, I got out of whack here. And then the last one is Christian music. I thought that was really interesting.
It is interesting. And plus you can see also, like, once you get past number 1 and number 2, then they really get close to each other. So they're not dramatic differences, but hip hop and R&B clearly the top runner in that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's thank our sponsors, Mike. We are so fortunate to have great sponsors, starting with HiPod. Since 2004, HiPod has chronicled the new music industry and the trends and technologies that are changing how music is discovered, consumed, marketed, and monetized. It's edited daily by founder Bruce Houghton with help from Alana Bonilla. HiPod and sister blog, Music Think Tank. They're published by live music and discovery marketing platform, Bands in Town.
Indeed, Bands in Town. Over 90 million live music fans trust Bands in Town to get personalized concert alerts, recommendations, and messages from their favorite artists. It is the #1 artist service platform, connecting over 650,000 artists with their superfans. Managers, labels, agencies, and artists access their own dashboard to manage and promote their tour dates across all platforms. And guess what? I get to hang out mostly Saturdays, although we're doing it Sunday this week, with my good friend Jay Gilbert. He is a music industry consultant. He is the curator of the weekly Your Morning Coffee newsletter, and he does spend a ton of time on that, and it shows. And a former executive with Universal Music, Sony Music, and Warner Music Groups.
Yes, sir, and I get to do this every week with my good friend Mike Etchart, longtime host of Sound and Vision Radio, formerly of SST Records, Warner Music, Capital EMI, Universal Music Group, and we were just talking today. We need to get together for lunch again soon and sort of brainstorm some guests coming up. And
yes, we do.
And maybe see some shows together. Last night, I saw Lainey Wilson at the Forum here in Los Angeles with my dear friend Sav Madigan playing multiple instruments for her. And what an incredible show. What an incredible night. Lainey Wilson is killing it.
You know what? And I love going to the Forum now because, when I was growing up here in Southern California, that was, of course, the home of the Lakers and the Kings, and it was principally an athletic venue, and then you would do concerts, and it didn't sound great. It really didn't sound great. But now that it's a music-only venue, they've really improved the sonics in there, the sound, and it's a very wonderful place to go see a concert.
Yeah,
And,
it sounded amazing last night.
I bet it did. All right, let's jump into the big stories. This first one, it's from our friend Kristen Robinson over at Billboard from her Machine Learning's newsletter, which, by the way, we do suggest that everybody subscribe to that. It is fantastic. And the title of the article is Burner Pages and Volume Posting, Inside Music's Hottest New TikTok Marketing Strategy. Call it what you want: flooding, seeding, volume posting, trend simulation, burner pages, or, as one digital marketer jokingly called it, the great meme wars of 2025. There's a new digital marketing strategy out there. No one knows really what to call it, and seemingly everyone is trying it.
Right. This emerging strategy flips standard TikTok marketing on its head. Now, instead of spending thousands for top creators to include certain songs in their post, crafty managers, labels, and a crop of new digital marketing companies like Chaotic Good and Floodify, love that name, are quietly operating or working on their own armies of hundreds of thousands of tiny TikTok pages with the covert purpose of using them to place songs in the backgrounds of posts.
Right. Federico Morris, Range Media Partners Director of A&R and co-manager for Dylan Gossett, said 5 years ago, there was a monolithic culture on TikTok. Everyone knew who the top TikTok stars were, and because of that, I think the same way labels were once able to force a song to the top at radio, digital marketers could force a TikTok trending song from the top down. Now we're trying to do it from the ground up.
Right. Kristen goes on to write that as TikTok matured, many in the music industry found that paying top TikTok creators large sums to post videos using their songs was becoming increasingly ineffective. Major creators' rates climbed. Online trends continue to fragment. TikTok became saturated with content, and the return on investment for labels became more dubious. Then around 2022, experts began focusing more on micro-influencers, users with somewhere between 5,000 and 50,000 followers, given they were cheaper and their participation appeared more organic than planting songs with the top stars.
But by late 2024, with the sheer amount of content on TikTok rising exponentially, digital marketers began to itch for a new type of music marketing campaign online. Why rely on pricey and temperamental creators when anyone can start an account with a decent chance at going viral?
Right. She writes that building pages is one of the tactics Will Morrow, the senior VP, head of viral marketing at Warner Records, he says helped a label achieve a string of recent breakthroughs, citing campaigns for Somber, Benson Boone, and Teddy Swims as particularly effective use cases. Morrow says, we were seeing a lot of pages starting to go viral with virtually zero followers. Around 2023, earlier than most, we'd see pages with 20 followers post content about our artists, and they'd get millions of views. It wasn't just the big creators.
Right. So Adam Tarsia, who was in February co-founded Chaotic Good, one of the most in-demand digital companies in this new space, said the rise of this trend happened very quickly. The foundation of this marketing method had been there for a while, but late last year and very early this year, things really reached a critical mass where it seemed like everyone was trying to do this. While the 10 marketing experts interviewed for this story all differ in their exact approaches, there are a few common types of so-called burner pages created today.
Yeah, typically these accounts don't have personalities or faces attached to them. Just a common theme to their posts, which allows marketers to fly under the radar of normal social media users. These pages could be meme accounts or country-themed pages featuring videos of trucks and ATVs paired to music the marketer is promoting. Another example is a page that only posts the same image of a coffee cup over and over, overlaying the cup with a new quote on each post that's designed to be highly relatable and shareable.
Right. In the case of the coffee cup account, the quotes are all romantically themed. Couples love sharing sweet quotes with each other, and I found accounts that really do well, says the digital marketer behind the account who requested anonymity. The more people share the post, the more it juices the algorithm. The song an artist's team is pushing is then synced in the background like a subliminal message.
Yeah, while it may seem that these campaigns are akin to throwing spaghetti at the wall to see if it sticks, the trend actually capitalizes on a known psychological phenomenon, the mere exposure effect, which states that the amount of times a person is exposed to something, whether that be music or a shoe brand or an interior design style, the more likely are to say that they like it.
Right. Well, artist teams can either receive this service in-house at certain digital savvy labels like Warner Records, which has invested in the tactic as part of its core offering to signees, or pay external companies like Chaotic Good and its competitors on a per-song basis. Two artist managers told Billboard they have been quoted around $5,000 per song from different companies in the space. Although prices vary widely in exchange, these firms often provide a target number of views on posts containing the song.
Right. Ranges Morris says that with your own account, you can push out a high volume of content quickly and with precision, instead of having to book 30 accounts run by other people for a marketing campaign. Went on to say that when you do that, you often have to wait for the pages to post at different times. Some are reliable, some really aren't.
So these campaigns also vary in their thoughtfulness. Some companies simply focus on getting the song in front of as many people as possible, no matter what the accompanying post is. Others are more tailored. The more bespoke approach is to trend simulation, in quotation marks, as Chaotic Good refers to it, identifies a song's target audience and posts on accounts that tend to attract those demographics. For example, an R&B love ballad might work great on the coffee cup page, but it might not work on the truck page.
Yeah, Kristen goes on to write that to further drive home the narrative and audience an artist wants to build, marketers might also run fan pages where they pose as regular fans to recirculate content from the artist's concerts, interviews, and music videos. The hope is to drive fans straight to the content and narratives that they want to promote. Jesse Korn, who is the co-founder of Chaotic Good and mutual friend, said, "Everyone wants to break a song, but at the same time, we want to break an artist too. A lot of our focus is on creating a narrative for an artist on the internet and bringing them into the zeitgeist."
Instead of building up pages in-house like some of the other marketers interviewed for the story, 100 Days takes a slightly different approach. The co-founders of 100 Days, Ben Klein and Sean Kane, were inspired by clipping communities and Discord servers, online communities where creators' teams gather hundreds or thousands of TikTok users and pay them by the view to repost short snippets of their creators' Twitch streams, and decided to do it themselves. It was already somewhat common to find savvy music marketers using clipping communities to try to get their clients' songs synced in the background of videos, but 100 Days wanted to make their own that was solely dedicated to music.
Yeah, this is super interesting. This Ben Klein said, we launched our own Discord server with 4 different types of creators: lyric pages, film TV edit pages, quotes, and aesthetic pages, and sports edits. He said, we have about 2,000 creators in a server across those categories, and a couple of other stragglers in other areas like anime edit pages. When we get an inquiry from a client and they say they want to spend $5,000 across lyric pages and quote pages, we just drop that request in the server and tag the post to direct the request to creators in that category. They get a notification and they're told they can participate in the campaign.
Wow. Yeah. So while creating accounts in-house can allow for maximum control, there's also some danger involved, given there are limits to how many accounts can be made with one phone number or email address. Joe Lim, who's the founder of Floodify, learned this the hard way. He said, we made around 7,000 accounts when we started, and they launched the company, by the way, in February of 2025. He said, but then there was an error, and one of our editors messed up, sending a video across all 7,000 accounts, and then all of them got cooked. Their value deteriorated to zero. I think we lost the equivalent of $30,000 on those accounts.
Yikes.
Ouch.
I don't want to be that employee. Lim suspects that the faulty video upload caused his accounts to get flagged by TikTok and hurt his ability to get viral view counts from those accounts in the future. Now, Floodify, great name, has a renewed approach. He claims to have a fleet of 20,000 social media accounts, which were created by users around the world. He put out a small digital ad calling for people to lend their accounts to his company, and the users, hoping to earn some quick cash, answered the call, offering up their accounts to Floodify to post on their behalf. The participants are paid per view.
Right. Lim said, we will try posting on everyone's accounts, but we'll only pay them if it gets above 10 views. And if we post on your account 5 times and they all flop, then we won't post on that page again. We only post on the best accounts. It's a forever cycle of bettering the views per account. Realistically, Lim says, even though he has access to 20,000 accounts, he only uses the best 3,000 to 5,000. On a daily basis, Lim estimates that his team posts in the wide range of around 5,000 to 15,000 videos every single day, all promoting music from different artists.
Wow. That is incredible. It's hard to judge success from these campaigns. Are all views worthwhile? Kane is skeptical. People go wrong when they place value on empty creates, things that just literally get a post under your sound, no matter what, he says. If there's no intent behind it or a plan for how this connects to a larger audience, then it's just a vanity metric. Instead, Kane and Klein say success to them, like all marketing, is to create general awareness, but it's always the best outcome when the campaign drives streaming success.
So while burner pages were devised in part to help artists break through the ever-increasing saturation of TikTok, experts agree that their tactics also contribute to that situation. I think the point of a burner page is not to combat the issue of saturation. It's the idea of if you can't beat them, join them, says Morrow. Now with the rise of generative AI and automation tools, the future of social content is bound to be even more fast-paced. And those things are key to how many of these marketers plan to continue doing this moving forward.
Yeah, and Morrow goes on to say that AI is already a huge part of the space overall, but the ways that various marketers are using it today vary. The digital marketer behind the coffee cup account admits that they're only currently working on an AI-powered system to generate memes and post them automatically to his various pages without them having to lift a finger. And they're already automating a lot of their posting process. Lim says Floodify offers adaptable AI influencers to music clients.
Right. He says we offer AI influencers that basically create a story around the song. He says, for example, if we are hired to do a country song, we'll have the influencer in a truck, but maybe for the next video, we are doing a different song campaign, and we have the same AI influencer on the same page doing a different activity like swimming or golf, something that fits the song.
Right. Chaotic Good and Mutual Friends, their co-founder, Andrew Spellman, said that while they've experimented with AI-generated content, personally, it's not a real part of our process currently. Though he adds, we suspect in the future it'll be bigger and bigger part of digital marketing.
Right. Still, every person interviewed for this story can agree on one thing that can stand out in any campaign: the song. Morrow says at the end of the day, good music is what ultimately cuts through. You can have the greatest marketing strategy of all time, pull out every trick in the book, but if the music isn't there, it doesn't really matter, as it always has been.
Yeah,
right, Jay?
Kristen Robinson did such a great job on this piece.
Did.
And I would just leave the piece with that great quote that we've talked about from Jonathan Daniel at Crush. And he says, if you give me a great song, my job is easy. If you give me a good song, my job is impossible.
Exactly. Absolutely right. And it's just, and again, it's like from the beginning of the music business, it's got to have the
about
great
the song, dummy.
It's always about the song. Exactly. All right. Our next story, it's from Daniel Tenser over at Music Business Worldwide. AI creating potentially new music genres as artists take control, says Stability AI study. AI is already reshaping music culture and creating potential new new music genres as artists adapt the technology. That's according to a new research paper.
Yeah, that research paper written by researchers at Stability AI entitled Music and Artificial Intelligence, Artistic Trends analyzed 337 AI-related music artworks to answer the question, how are artists using artificial intelligence to make music? The short answer, AI is mostly used as a co-composition and sound design tool, but is also heavily used for lyric generation.
Right. Importantly, the research paper left out casual creators, such as those who might use tools that create songs from scratch, like Suno and Udio, and focused on professional artists. Among them, artists primarily use AI tools to augment their creative processes, allowing them to retain artistic agency, the paper said.
Right, and we find that to be true, and you and I were talking about that before we hit record, about some songwriters we know that are using it precisely like that. The article goes on to say that, however, some artists are intentionally exploring the loss of creative agency brought on by AI, allowing certain aspects of their creative process to be guided by AI or other users of AI. Artists like Holly Herndon, which we've talked about extensively, Grimes, others, they've released AI models of their voices, allowing others to create music using their vocal likeness, the research paper noted.
Right. It went on to say this development introduces a new degree of interaction between artists and their audiences, enabling collaborations that transcend traditional creative boundaries. Notably, the researchers found that the ongoing debate about copyright in AI-generated music is one of the major reasons why some artists are creating data sets from their own music for AI to play with.
The evolving legal landscape around training data sets has driven artists to become more deliberate in sourcing their own training data. As such, artists are curating data sets for custom training to craft their own unique sound, much like the designers program synthesizers.
The researchers also focused on innovations made possible, or at least much easier, by AI, such as the creation of uncanny new sounds or the ability of AI to translate lyrics into multiple languages. They noted K-pop group Midnat's 2023 single Masquerade, which has versions in English, Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Spanish, and Vietnamese, and Lauve's Love You Like That in English and Korean.
Yeah, you and I talked about that quite a bit, Brenda Lee's Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree.
Yep.
And, I just think that is so fascinating that AI can take a song and really translate it into a different language. Another innovation is the ability for generative AI to transform a song from one genre to another. And I found this super interesting. Before, musicians had to dedicate years to learn a specific genre. Now, AI can blend and produce music in multiple and potentially new genres. And this is what the researchers found out.
Right, and the paper also focused on the cultural pushback against AI-generated music and drew parallels between the AI revolution and earlier technological changes that were resisted by many when they altered music creation. The research paper states the use of samples was once denounced as artistic theft rather than genuine creativity.
Yeah, it really was. And the paper goes on to write that, likewise, auto-tune, those users face criticism for altering the natural quality of the voice, often viewed as compromising vocal authenticity. These cases underscore the evolving nature of artistic evaluation, where initial skepticism can transform into historical validation and cultural significance, the researchers wrote. Parallels with past narratives showcase that current trends and cultural pushback are not new.
The paper noted that the introduction of the iron frame in pianos enabled composers like Beethoven to push the boundaries of musical expression. It allowed increasing string tension, expanding the potential of the piano both in terms of sound and dynamics.
Yeah, people were very upset about that at the time, by the way. And the introduction of amplifiers, facilitated the rise of genres like rock, blues, and jazz, the paper noted, while drum machines, modern samplers, and the auto-tune were key technological innovations that influenced the development of new music genres.
Right. The researchers highlighted the cultural impact that AI music has already had, from the millions of streams that AI-generated music has received on streaming platforms to the popularity of the fake Drake track Heart on My Sleeve a few years back.
Yeah, the paper noted that technology has allowed the release of music from established artists that would otherwise not have been possible, like the Beatles Now and Then we talked about, which used AI techniques to restore John Lennon's voice recorded on a boombox in 1978. And, AI vocals imitating Randy Travis. I would argue that it was trained on, not imitated, but that allowed the country star to release new songs more than a decade after losing his voice due to a stroke. Finally, the paper notes that at this early stage of AI development, the future trajectory of AI in music remains unclear.
Right. It said at the end, as AI continues to develop, the influence on music is becoming noticeable, but the full extent of its impact on popular music and culture remains uncertain. Well, there you have it.
Wow.
All right, our final story of the week. The U.S.'s click-to-cancel rule could soon be law. What would that mean for streaming services? This is from Daniel Tenser over at Music Business Worldwide. Digital service providers like the DSPs, like Spotify and Netflix, breathed a sigh of relief in July when a U.S. federal appeals court struck down the Federal Trade Commission's planned click-to-cancel rule.
Yeah, this was a big deal this week. That rule would have mandated that canceling a digital service like music or even TV streaming has to be as easy as signing up for it in the first place. The idea that places DSPs in a bind. On one hand, consumers have been growing increasingly frustrated at the obstacles that service providers have set up to slow down the cancellation process. Customers are complaining about having a hard time canceling their service isn't good for a company's image at all.
On the other hand, a simplified process could lead to significant revenue reductions, pose security risks, and damage DSP's ability to understand the market for their product. But just when the idea seemed to have been shot down due to what the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeal called a procedural error by the FTC, it's been brought back as legislation.
Right. And finally, for now, DSPs really don't need to worry. While the Trump administration's opposition to heavier regulation of businesses and both houses of Congress controlled by Republicans, the chances of this bill passing are fairly low. In the longer run, though, rules similar to the Click to Cancel Act stand a solid chance of becoming the norm, not just in the U.S., but worldwide. So for the whole story, check out the link in your morning coffee. This is two stories we covered by Daniel Tenser from Music Business Worldwide. We're huge fans of Daniel's work. And kudos, Daniel. Great stuff this week.
Exactly. Well, hey, we got to wrap up the show. So if you do know one friend and you like the show, please pass that along to them. We would certainly appreciate it. It really helps with the show for us. And big thanks to our good friends over at Hypebot and Bands in Town, our sponsors, for really making the show happen. We could not do it without them. And if you like that music that's underneath our sponsor details, that's from the Licorice Quartet, a band that Jay and I are both gigantic fans of, quite frankly. So on behalf of my good friend Jay Gilbert, I'm Mike Etchart. I say thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week on the Your Morning Coffee Podcast.
You've been listening to Your Morning Coffee, the weekly music news program for the new music business. Join Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart next time for the digital music news you need to know.